So I had the inspiration to do a little, and maybe it'll turn into a series, quick and dirty jigs, what I call them. And this was necessity is the mother of invention, right? So we were snowed in, couldn't get anywhere, and I was cutting these veneers and realized I needed to probably come up with something real quick to help it just not veer off that blade too much. Granted, it wasn't veering much, but I didn't have a whole lot of room or playroom to work with. So, it was late at night and no hardware store within distance I could get to. Job's got to get done. So I reached for one of the most underappreciated, uncelebrated, unsung heroes of any woodworking shop. It's a small list of little items that I call that, give that title, and these are roller skate bearings. Really useful to have around. So all I really did was I grabbed some of those I keep around, and also another great unsung hero are these little um, like turn screw kind of like clamps or just knobs. Really, they hook into a like these. I think actually came with the threaded rod in it. I just usually if I'm up at Grizzly or I'm online ordering something, I'll order 5 or 10 of these suckers because they're just great to have around for jigs. But when you combine the two, it was actually pretty successful considering it was what I call quick and dirty. Just slotted the MDF real quick. I think I threw it on a drill press, and then to drill out those lines, and then I had openings for those little pieces with each roller skate bearing on it to move laterally. And as you can see, it's working just fine. So I'm loosening it and showing you how it just can move backwards and forwards. That way you can adjust to any thickness you're cutting on the saw, without having to really do a whole lot of other, tailoring to every time you move the fence. This can just move with you. And the top one, actually, I set up to where it can move almost like a pendulum if I need it to, because I was looking at how boards could react differently, and I like the idea of it being able to swing a little left or a little bit right. You want to get closer to the blade or further away. And then there's one on the bottom there for entrance, just to keep it steady going into the blade. If you're wondering why there's not a fourth one, it's because I have a right hand, and that's what it does. I mean, something's got to feed the workpiece, right? So I just went with 3 on this. It seemed like it was actually safer to not have more stuff in my way, close to my hands. The good old bandsaw rule, that I run by is I keep my hands 4 inches away from that blade at all times. If I gotta get within 4 inches, probably grabbing a push stick or am. So yeah, I'm cutting some veneers out of rock maple, which that's going to be a lot in these first early videos we're putting up on the channel because it was a massive job and it was mostly rock maple. Yeehaw. Not my favorite wood to work with. Um, I'm now about 3 weeks removed from that job and I still don't want to look at rock maple for a while. Um, but yeah, the jig worked really well. I'll probably just keep it. A lot of times a quick and dirty jig, you're not really worried about having it around or having it look sexy enough to be on fine woodworking's cover, right? A lot of woodworkers get into that, and I appreciate a beautiful jig like anybody else, but I'm a professional, and profit's the name of the game. And so, if it's functional and it is something that holds up well, it doesn't have to be beautiful. The workpiece does, the jig doesn't. But it's a little bit of pride ain't a bad thing. A whole lot, that's probably gonna hurt your pocket. So this is all it is, just simple. I just did some washers and some bolts that threaded into it underneath them, just countersunk. And you see the bearings, everything just glides right across it. Didn't have to wax them or anything. Roller skate bearings are really useful, and so are those handles. Forearm knob, excuse me. There's your product number. You can find it. Highly recommend keeping those on hand. Never know when you're going to need them.